Evening, everybody. Happy Thursday to you. This is Jen, and I thought this is the let's see, day 3 of my writing challenge, and the fourth video I'm putting together for Scrivener and for my writing challenge. I thought I'd just talk about the day, and things are going really good. It was another day, much like yesterday, where I got 3 writing sprints in. We'll get to those in just a moment, but things are going good with this novel so far. And just wanted to talk a little bit about Scrivener, some of the functionality, and then also talk about the challenge and how it's going. Some questions that I've gotten from folks online as the challenge has gotten started. Just want to talk real quick, just a couple features of Scrivener that you may not be aware of if you haven't used it, or maybe you use it and don't necessarily know, is that Scrivener files, the project files, can get very large and can contain a lot of information. For instance, this project file has enough content, enough chapters and stuff in it for 3 different books. And I haven't quite figured out what the upper limit is to files and folders in a Scrivener file before it starts to crash. I've heard about other users who use Scrivener and have managed to crash it because there's just so much data in there. But even with Pistols and Pyramids, I had 9 different manuscripts in there in various stages of completion, along with graphics and a lot of supporting documentation. And couldn't tell you what the file size was, but just in terms of sheer amount of information that you can pack into one project file, it's pretty significant. So I don't really worry about how much content I've got in here and worry about Scrivener crashing them. I do back up my files every night, of course. I think any smart writer would do that, and if you haven't done it, then do it, because you never know when disaster might be around the corner waiting for you, and you would hate to lose all that content that you've been working so hard on. Anyway, so back up your stuff. Scrivener files can be pretty darn big without worrying about crashing. Other random comment that I wanted to note is some people have been really surprised at the speed of writing that I'm doing. And if you're following Chris Fox's challenge and Kevin McLaughlin's challenge and a few other folks out there, we haven't started writing yesterday. We've all been doing this for a number of different years, and I've been writing as an amateur and as a professional for probably 25 years or more, and really only gotten serious about it within the last 10 years, and really serious about it in the last probably 4 or 5 years. And what's happened is, over the course of time, the more practice I've put in and the more work I've put in, the faster I've gotten, the more confident I've gotten in my writing, to the point where when I write these drafts, right, they're pretty clean text, and these will change a little bit in editing, but not too much. What you're seeing here is probably the 90 to 95% solution in terms of editing and plotting and characterization and stuff. So I'm not saying it's perfect by any means. I've still got a long way to go. If you follow Dean Wesley's Smith's blog at all, he talks about stages of writers: stage 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the long-time professionals who know the ins and outs of the craft from traditional publishing and hybrid publishing. They're upper stage 3, stage 4 writers. Stephen King is a high-level stage 4 writer, and I know I'm nowhere near there, but I can look up and see the path to get there, and it's just a whole lot of practice and words ahead of me, and it's all constant learning, constant willingness to learn and to read and to keep writing. And so I encourage you not to be dismayed at the amount of words I'm putting down on paper, as well as that of Chris and Kevin and other folks who are following these different challenges along, because you may not be writing at this speed, but that's okay. You write at your speed that works for you, and eventually, if you continue to work at it, your speed will naturally increase, because you'll stop making some of the mistakes you're making now. You'll make all new mistakes, but it's just a gradual improvement curve for those willing to learn. I've known of a couple of writers who constantly wrote stories and never improved because they didn't put the work in. And part of that work, as Chris has mentioned in in one of his books is that a lot of readers or a lot of writers just don't read enough. Reading is one of the best ways to learn the craft. Um, there's only so much you can learn just by putting down words without any additional input. So I encourage you to read often, read widely, in and out of your genre, in and out of fiction, nonfiction, whatever. Read, 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 read. Anyway, so that being said, so one other piece of functionality with Scrivener that I haven't really tried out with this yet, but I suspect it's doable, is yes, here it is. So I saved off. You can say when you get get your project file into a place where you're happy with it. With the structure over here in your this is originally called research, but I changed it to series Bible because that's just comfortable for me. But when you get to a point where this is in a good format so that you feel like you can use this for multiple different projects, you can take this this entire project file and save it as a template. And what that'll do, so let's call this novel JJ1, just so that I can remember. It's a fiction, manuscript, and hit OK. So that'll save that. And then if we were to close this, and then go to our handy dandy Scrivener, and we decide to open up a new where is it? Open. Oh, here it is. So so when you save a project file as a template, what that'll do is it'll say, okay, well, here's your new we're starting a new project file. I'm going to use that template I just created to get it started. So I'll double click on that. We'll save this as test project, just so you can see how it looks, and we'll hit create. And what that's going to do is it's going to create a whole new Scrivener project file with, as it grinds just a little bit here, with that exact same structure that we just had in the template. So now, if I'm going to start working on a I don't know, a space opera series, I can make some minor changes over here to a few, like to the character names, supporting characters. Maybe some of these folders will change a little bit, but all this other content, like if you like, this is like how you like to work, and you want to use this format for more than one series or more than one book, then you can just use the same template over and over and over again. So I wanted to show you that, and it's a good idea, to get the hierarchy of files and folders to a point where you're really happy with it, so that you're comfortable duplicating it and turning it into a template for future use. So we'll shut that down, and we'll shut that down, and we'll bring the challenge project back up here, since this is what we're working on, and we'll talk about the I'm just I'm glancing at my notes here that I made. So I saved it as a template. Yes, we're not going to talk. A lot of people have questions about the compile feature, which I totally get. I'm not going to get to the compile feature just yet because it's worthy of a video all by itself, and I don't feel quite armed to talk about the Mac version of compile yet. So we'll get to that. We'll get there eventually. We got months to go yet, so plenty of time. Yeah, so let's talk about the sprints for today. So as you look at book 1 as in progress, yesterday I had gotten up to part of chapter 5. I'm still haven't finished. Actually, I didn't even touch chapter 5 today. There's still a whole bunch of typos and changes that need to be made. But I just plowed forward, working on chapter 6. There's 6. Move the cursor. And there's 7. And there's part of 8. So I finished my last sprint for the day, my third sprint for the day, got me about a third of the way through chapter 8. So I just stopped where I was. I'll pick it up tomorrow. And we'll go over to the sprint log. You'll see I wrote 3 sprints today. Again, there's the timing that came out. Each one was half an hour long. Here's my word count for each sprint. You can see it's a pretty solid word counts for each one: 1385, 1510, 1463. Unlike yesterday, where I kind of built up speed as I went, I was pretty steady today. I did, you can see about 4,300 words, 4,358 and change. Brings the project total up to 9,300. I'm really happy with that. That's well over 3,000 a day. So I've already burned past my my goal of 3,000 words a day, and I'm at about 20. I did the math earlier. I'm at about 25 or 2,600 words an hour. Just if you break down 9364 by 1, 2, 3.5 hours of writing so far. So this project is right on track with my writing speed. Last year, when I wrote the first 5 books of Pistols and Pyramids, I had written, I think, about 200,000 words in the space of a couple of months. So I was cranking right along at about this rate. So it hasn't really changed, and I don't use any dictation software. This is just hands on the keyboard, and all I can say is this is the result of years of practice and years of experience. You know, obviously I only started indie publishing last October, November, so you know, if you look at my sales and my books available, you know, you wouldn't see much there, but this is where years of experience and training and practice is starting to work for me, and hopefully in the next couple of years, the more titles will come out, more sales will be there, and I'll be you know, a steady mid-lister like some other folks out there, and that's my goal, and I'm just thrilled that you're along for the ride. So anyway, real quick, running through the day. Not much different today than yesterday. Got up at 6, got the baby ready for daycare, went to work, worked on the outline at lunch. On the way to work, the 40-minute commute on the way to work and on the way home, I was working with my voice recorder to jot down some notes and some ideas, and to kind of really lay out where I was going with chapters 6, 7, and 8. I mean, I had known where I'd gone with the first 5 chapters, and I knew where I wanted to go with the next chunk of chapters, as well as knowing what the different pieces of the outline were coming up, right? Like these different pieces that I pulled from Libby Hawker's Take Off Your Pants book, right? The story is continuing forward, and I wanted to start pulling these elements into the different chapters. So you can see, you know, chapter 6 continues it, chapter 7, these are all still from the main character's point of view. In fact, we'll switch over to the outline mode here so you can see, you know, this is all main character, first person point of view. And then there's in the course of these scenes, a new character was introduced, Malcolm. That's just a working name right now. I'm still trying to figure out what the names are going to be for these characters, but Malcolm fits for now because he's been in my head as Malcolm for a long time. And so I told chapter 8 is from his. Actually, you know what? I think I got that wrong. Yeah, actually, I need to fix that. Chapter 7 is Malcolm's point of view. Chapter 8 is back to the main character, and you can see I still need to take chapter 5 and fix the typos. So I changed my labels. So now instead of it being first draft, second draft, third draft, etc., I changed them to say draft in progress, draft complete, pre-edit, pass, post-edit, voice, and final. These are the little passes I do. I don't do multiple drafts. I just do passes through the existing one. So, you know, tidying things up, tightening things up, doing some minor revisions here and there. And again, to change these status labels, you just go into Edit, and you can double-click on these, rename them anything you want. And then if you want to add more labels, you hit the plus button. If you want to get rid of them, you hit the minus button. Pretty simple here. But this is a structure that I'm comfortable with. So this just shows me at a glance that you know, I've got a bunch of chapters locked in, at least for the purposes of the draft, and I've got a couple that need to be worked on. Over here you can see the word totals for each one. For the most part, like I mentioned in the previous video, I like to make my scenes scenes and chapters no longer than 1,500 words. But you can see that chapter 6 here is quite a bit longer, 2,600. The main character got talking to somebody, and I love dialogue, and it just kind of went on for a little while. And so that one will probably be a chapter that gets trimmed a little bit when I go through an edit pass or a revision pass or whatever. Although, I may leave it mostly as it is. It might be just a little bit longer chapter, just because I don't like all of my chapters being more than 1,500 words doesn't mean you can't have one once in a while. It's not going to hurt the story to have a slightly longer chapter as long as it keeps moving. And dialogue is pretty quick to read, unless you're not good at writing dialogue, then it turns into a kludge. But for the most part, dialogue is pretty one of my stronger suits, I think. And so that chapter, even though it has a lot of dialogue in it, flows pretty good, I think. And so that's where a big chunk of the wordage is right there. But you see some of these chapters a little smaller. I think chapter 5 needs a little bit of work. I think I stopped that kind of midway and I haven't looked at it yet, so I think I probably need to add a little bit of words to that one. And of course, chapter 8 was stopped in the middle of things, so I'll probably I'll finish chapter 8 tomorrow. Excuse me. So that is pretty much it. And like I said, going back to the sprints, 3 sprints today, 30 minutes apiece, whole lot of words, 4,300 words. So obviously my word count has increased. I don't expect it to increase a whole lot more beyond that. This is pretty much, I won't say maximum speed for what I'm capable of in a 30-minute sprint, but it's right up there. I actually forced myself to slow down a little bit because I realized just how many typos I was making near the end of the sprint when I was getting tired, and just putting down 1,500 words in half an hour. It's just a lot of words, and intentionally slowing myself down during a sprint actually saves me time later because I don't have to do as much editing and fixing the typos like I'll have to do here with chapter 5. I mean, having all these little red typos to fix, it's messy to look at, and it's just kind of a pain in the butt to have to go through and just fix all those little things. In fact, sometimes I'll look at a typo if I wait long enough, and I'll just stare at it for a while, wondering what I was trying to say here. Like, my eyes were full of stars and flashes, but gradually they started to even out, and then I could see light again. The lights in the hallway were starting to come back. So I can read this, but there have been other books where if I was away from the manuscript long enough, I would look at it and just throw it away because I have no idea what the typos were trying to tell me. So I think that's pretty much it for today. Like I said, another successful day down. Third day of the challenge. I am right on track. I'm at 3,100 words a day, give or take. That's just over my goal of 3,000 words a day. So book is humming right along. We're little over 10, well over 10% of the way. No, about 10% of the way into it, and feeling really good about it. I'm starting to get a feel for the main character. So the first couple chapters will probably be revised a little bit to better fit the main character. I have a good sense of where the story's going. I understand where the pieces are starting to fall into place, and I'm starting to build the story itself. I'll do more outlining this weekend, start laying in more colors and more cards and stuff. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, please leave a comment and let me know. I'm going to go update keyboards and my blog and all that good stuff. So have a great night. Thanks so much for listening, and happy writing.